Welcome back to this special 2-hour edition of Justice. I'm Janine Pirro, and we've been following breaking news. A massacre inside a synagogue in Pittsburgh. 11 people killed, at least 6 injured, including several police officers who responded to the scene. The shooter, a hate-filled anti-Semite, identified by police as Robert Bowers, shot and injured, but in police custody. Much more coming up throughout this 2-hour edition of Justice. But first, here to weigh in on tonight's breaking news and more as we head into the final stretch before the midterm elections, RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Good evening, Ronna. Thanks for being with us tonight. Your reaction to some of the events of the past week. Let's start with today and the shooting in the synagogue.
Well, my heart goes out to those families and the whole Jewish community that's been affected by this violent, evil, murderous hate act. And I'm proud of the president and the Justice Department that has said they're going to prosecute under the hate crime statute that will bring the maximum penalty of the death penalty. But all of America is grieving right now for Pittsburgh and this community that has been so tragically impacted by the events of today. You know, and yesterday, Ronna, an individual arrested for sending those, I believe, I don't know how many pipe bombs to several people in office, and those who are literally Trump haters. Do you think that the rhetoric of today is impacting the way people are conducting themselves?
Well, I think there's a common denominator in all of these things, and it's evil. And these people are deranged and evil that are committing these acts. And I don't think, as Eric said earlier, you need to look at their political affiliations or their, their party affiliation. It's about who these individuals are, and they're deranged and they're evil. And the president has taken the lead and said, we need to unite as a country against these hateful acts, and it's a time for civility. And he said last night, I was with him in the rally in North Carolina, he said, let's start focusing on the policies that we're putting forward as a government, and not on ways that we can divide each other. And I think that's the right stance, and I hope Democrats will come to the table. I know that right now, Democrats and Republicans are coming together to mourn what happened in Pittsburgh. This is not a partisan event. This is something that brings Americans together as we grieve for those who are suffering.
Well, you know, that is certainly a hope because, you know, we are all Americans, and this kind of evil can't divide us. You know, if there is any silver lining, maybe it will bring us together. But, you know, to make a left turn here, midterms 9 days away. How do you get the country to focus on the issues as opposed to, number one, the rhetoric? Or how do you get people to get out of their homes when you and I both know 10 days ago, because of Kavanaugh and all of the other stuff that have been happening and the caravan, you know, people couldn't wait to get to the voting booths. Now, I'm not so sure if things haven't been tamped down with all this violence.
Well, that's where the RNC has put together, why the RNC has put together the largest field program we've had in history. We've had 60 million voter contacts thus far. We've trained 25,000 field organizers across the country. We've raised over $269 million. And all of that is so that we can make that final argument to voters in these closing days as to why we need to choose Republicans, why we need to retain the majority. And it is results versus resistance. We are the party that is delivering more jobs, higher wages, strengthening our military, caring for our law enforcement, holding them up as the heroes that they are, taking on the opioid crisis, taking on the pharmaceuticals. And the Democrats have continued to double down on two things: resist and obstruct. So the party is out there talking to voters. We are urging everybody to make sure you talk to your family, your friends. The only way we keep this comeback alive for this country is if you vote.
Okay. And, you know, what is the most important message you think that you can give to people? And, you know, Eric Trump was on earlier and he talked about how every metric seemed to be improved under his dad's leadership. But what is the message that you hope is going to move people out? And who do you think is more motivated now? I mean, you know, it depends on the minute at this point. Who's more motivated, the Republicans or the Democrats?
Well, Democrats have been motivated. Opposition is motivating, and they're so mad that they didn't get the White House in 2016, so they've been energized. But Republicans are motivated, too, and the party has seen that. We have seen a rise in our energy, and with the field program we've put together, and then putting President Trump out on the campaign trail and putting him in all these states. I mean, what he did last night in North Carolina, I was with him. He's going to be making that last-minute push, and he's going to say to voters, are you better off than you were 2 years ago? Is our country safer? Is our country stronger? Are we making America great again? And on every metric, voters are going to say yes. And Democrats are offering nothing except obstruct, resist, raising taxes, abolish ICE, open borders. It is a very clear contrast between the messages that are being delivered to voters. And Republicans, along with President Trump, are making that final push to make sure voters get out and vote, because majorities are at stake and our country's trajectory, which is on the rise, is at stake. So go to vote.gop.com. Get engaged. This is not an election where you want to wake up the day after and say, I could have done more.
Now, you said that last night you were with the president in North Carolina. Okay.
I was.
All right. So for 9 days, is he out on the road again? It's not even on the road. It's in the air.
He is going to be on the road at an unprecedented pace. Listen, if we keep these majorities in the Senate and the House, and it looks like we're going to expand our majority in the Senate, which is unprecedented in a midterm year of a first president, it will be because of President Trump. He has driven small dollar fundraising for our party, and he has ignited our base by getting out and doing these rallies in important state after important state where his presence shows, we've seen it in the metrics, increases the energy and increases the voter turnout. So he is going to be out there. I don't know how he does it, Janine. I'm exhausted already. I don't know how he does it, but he cares so much about our country. And he knows what's at stake, and he's going to do everything we can to keep these majorities.
All right. Ronna McDaniel, thanks so much for being with us this evening.